Welcome to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge, the podcast where Christine says fear, questions everything, and takes bold action. Christine Spratley is a former professional boxer, nanny, and 29-plus year corporate warrior turned founder of HBIC Advisors, where she is a public speaker and coach. She's been saying fear her whole life, many times without even realizing it. So tune in, spread the word, and get ready, because this isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. You are listening to Fuck Fear with me, Christine Spratley, living like a head bitch in charge in HBIC. And we are going to have some fun today. We have fun every day on here, don't we, Joe? After we do our morning shots, no, that's not whiskey. But it feels like it burns going down what we do. Anyway, today I'm going to talk a little bit about managing up, because I've been talking about business and some of the things in business that we go through as women. One of the things that I have in my pantry that was given to me by Swati, she was a woman, a partner in EY, was a book called If You Want to Do It Right, You Don't Have to Do It Yourself. And I remember getting it, and I remember going, you're right. Yeah, right. Because I think for me, a lot of times I don't trust who I'm giving it to, and as women, I shouldn't say as women, I have noticed that a lot of my women friends in business and colleagues, we have a real hard time delegating because they're going to screw it up. And we don't trust that they're going to do it right. And then when they don't do it right, it ends up more on our plate, and then we have more work to do. So we'll just do it ourselves. And what's funny is this book, and there's another one, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I actually use in tandem with it a lot when I was at Deloitte and at EY, to manage not just down, but manage up. And you can even use it in your relationships. The thoughts and the mentalities and the practices and the principles kind of both books. Today, we're going to kind of go through, and if you want to do it right, you don't have to do it yourself. It is basically kind of like a 6-step delegation, effective delegation. And then I kind of used, like I said, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck to kind of have the mindset to go into that delegation. These are the 6 steps, but you have to figure out how you want to implement them in your world. So the first one is really try and understand and know why you're doing it yourself. Why the hell are we doing it? And typically, when I look around and I talk to women, especially when I coach them, I go, okay, what are you doing? What are you taking responsibility for? I did it in my personal relationships, and I did it at work. I was the doer. I was the get shit done girl. I was doing these, I said this in a speech, and it wasn't prepared. It was these soul-sucking, mind-numbing, non-promotional tasks. I'm doing them, whether it be taking notes, making edits, or organizing, logistics, because I can manage logistics really well. But the principle is, why am I doing this? And not just why, because the other thing that I've realized for me is there, because I go to why. Okay, well, it needs to get done. Okay, well, all right. Well, why should I be doing it is the question that I started asking myself. What am I getting in return? Is this helping my team? Really? Or is it just filling a plug, or I'm taking responsibility for everything and my team's not learning? Is it helping me get promoted? Is it helping me understand? Is it giving me knowledge? So why am I doing it myself? And then the mindset from The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck behind kind of understanding this is, not everything deserves my time, my attention, and my anxiety. Like, not everybody deserves access to my time, my attention, or my anxiety. And that is a different type of mentality for me to take, especially in the office when I work there. So a question that I want to ask you, because you all are our high performers, why do you say yes to it? Okay. You want to get it done right. AK, you want to get it done your way. Right? This is the thing. That's what right means to me is I want to get it done my way. If you're going to do it right, you're going to do it my way. Another thing is I often felt guilty for saying no. Or an easier one for me was it was just easier not to say no. It was just easier. It was just not, I didn't have to deal with the headache. I'll just do it. And then also the don't trust others to follow through. Okay. But if I keep doing that, then one, no, they don't learn how to do it the right way. Okay. Two, I'm going to feel guilty all the time and I'm not ever going to learn to trust them. And three, again, going towards the trust, I'm not ever going to teach them how to follow through. And the weird thing about doing everything all the time is that no one else annies up. I never give people the opportunity to ante up, to do it, and then to say, no, you need to try to do it again, or no, I just don't give them the opportunity to perform. So what's the cost? What is the cost of doing everything ourselves? And I can tell you, when I ask the people that I coach this, because I've coached some men on this too, they take a big sigh. It's like, what's your cost? You know what that cost is? It's burnout. I'm fucking tired. It's invisibility. We just kind of float around being busy doing everything, but we're not really seen. No one sees what we do. Or it's resentment. Those blankety blanks, they didn't, But again, I'm setting it up so I have resentment for you for not doing shit that I'm doing, that I'm taking responsibility for. I'm not allowing you to do it. So it's this weird cycle that I put myself in. Joe, you're over there nodding your head.
I was thinking, you mentioned earlier that you can apply it to your relationships. And I was just thinking of relationship stuff, like when one person in a couple gets upset at the other for not doing something. And then it's pretty fair for the other person to say, well, I can't read your mind. Did you ask? I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, this is the interesting thing that I really disliked. A lot of people believe that you just show up at work, but who you are in your relationships and in outside work is who you are at work. So the patterns that we set of reading the mind, of not communicating, we communicate differently. We may use different words, but the pattern and the mindset is very different. If you are giving everything to everybody in your relationships at home, you are likely doing that at work. If everybody has access to you, you have, and you can call it boundaries, I love calling it access, then you're giving your time, your attention, your anxiety to every little thing, and you bring that into work. I do believe it. It's really funny because no one can read your mind. And the other thing is no one, again, gets the opportunity to grow and support you. So, and I had to learn that. And I had to also learn that a great thing about it is when I do it, it's like, okay, if I'm going to tell you, hey, I want you to do something. And this is the good thing about this book. It literally walks through a step. I used to have to prepare for meetings with this. I did use it, and I'll go through it in a second. So the second thing, managing down with clarity, not control. And this is, again, if I'm going to give it to you to do, if I'm going to delegate this, the principle is delegation isn't dumping, it's developing. So if I think about this, and this is where I see, for me, a lot of, and a lot of PPMDs that I worked with is here, boom, there it is. Figure it out. And I grew up, I came up in the world of just figure it out, girl. And I worked for Crocker Consultant and Sarah Crocker. I walk into her office and I didn't know shit. I just didn't know shit. I was in land development and she'd be like, go get the building plans. And I'd bring her site plans. Like I had no idea what the difference. And I walked into her office one day and everybody, I've talked about her before, everybody was afraid of Sarah. And I was afraid of her too. And she said something and I said, I don't know. And she said, well, there was just two of us now. There was just two of us. I worked for her, and there was just her and I. She said, well, I can't afford to pay two of us to not know. And so I'm paying me. So you better go figure it out. And so again, I would go figure it out. But what I learned from that is, as a person, to try and go figure it out. But I also learned that in the Big Four world, margin, efficiency, renders profit. And so I don't dump when I delegate. I develop. So when I give this to someone, I need to develop them. I need to give them input around what it is. So the mindset around this is boundaries aren't mean. They're just leadership. I'm giving this to you. I'm developing you. This is your task. And so how do you do that? Well, it's clear expectations. One, I had to prepare beforehand. I never did that. How many times, and this is something that I know if there's anybody listening that works in Big Four, you know, how many times have you gotten on a call with your PPMD or your senior manager and they are not prepared? They've come from another meeting, blah, 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 blah. And now it's like, you got to bring them up to speed. They're not prepared. And so I started realizing, again, going back to the first segment of, I had to take responsibility. Well, my responsibility is to prepare. And then I need to clearly set my expectations and say, okay, this is what the task is that's going to be completed. I need to define the metrics. This is what it looks like. These are the things and the outcomes and the ownership. And this is where I think a really important part, and for me to learn, was that I had to give them the authority. And in the book, and I'll put this up there for you that can't see it, there is this little bookmark that they give you with this book. And it's got the 6 steps. And I would literally go through the 6 steps before my meetings. Actually before my meetings. But in preparing, but again, it's that authority in that step. It's actually step 4 is you have the authority to recommend. You have the authority to inform and initiate. You have the authority to act. So, for instance, if I want somebody to go create a presentation deck on a project that we're getting ready to present to, the state that we're looking at, taking a project to, okay, what do they have the authority to do? Well, I want you to develop the deck. You have the authority to recommend how we do it, like what the process is. You have the authority to inform and initiate around your whole team, to inform them, to initiate, to go and create it and do it. I want it all done. You have all of that authority to act. You do not have the authority to call anybody at the state and have a conversation, or, that's what I'm talking about. What do they have the authority to do? Because I can tell you when I would get stuff, I'd be like, especially, I would start doing shit, right? I got to go figure this out. We can't have, my mindset is I can't have 2 people that don't know. So, okay, I'm going to go figure it out. Well, where is the boundary? Because I remember I would call people inside the Big Four and, I'd just pick up the phone. I'm supposed to, I'll use a very specific example. I'm supposed to develop relationships with companies, right? So I know these companies. Well, there's 5 layers of people that I got to go through to get to these companies, but I don't know which layer I can talk to, right? I don't know who I can reach out to. Do I reach out to this person? Do I reach out to the account manager? Can I reach out to the client? I know somebody at the client. Again, give people the authority because we're developing them, okay? And so one of the things that I like about this is that when I am clear about the authority that they have, then I don't have to micromanage them. They understand it. I can allow people to rise to the occasion and recalibrate. I get to give them space to own their own outcomes. And this is one of the things that I really like about, and it's the last thing on the step. There's a step 5, but I really like about, and I'll go back to it. is when you go through this, you get to, at the end, sit down with them and say, okay, tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what the assignment is, what authority you have, what I've told you. And Joe, this goes back to your comment about relationships. It's the act of listening. So how many times in your relationships have you said, okay, tell me, when we listen, when you hear, I feel this way, you as the partner feed back to them, I heard you say that you feel this way, and then you add what you're going to do or going to say. It's actively repeating back. And that is one of the greatest things when I give somebody something, is to have them go, okay, you tell me what the assignment is, what you have the authority to do, what you're going to do, what you're thinking about doing, what that process is. And I can tell you that doing that changed my whole interaction with my team a lot, because I could see where the disconnects were before they even happened. Or I could see, oh, they thought of doing this. I didn't think about that. And then we could talk more about, develop that further for me. Tell me a little bit more about what you're going to do. Or when I told them they had the authority to recommend, oh, they took it this way. No, this is what I meant for you to do. And then I can correct and recalibrate before, and we can sit there and go, okay, this is how you do that. So when you're managing down and you're delegating that way, use that. They get to define, but they use their words in their terms. And that's really helpful. The last thing that I do in this was also helpful is I've learned to add in checkpoints, right? Add in checkpoints till we can say, okay, in a day, do an update and I want to see X, Y, and Z. Because a lot of times for me and I've done this so, and it's such a waste of time. They give me the finished products and it's a piece of shit, and I'm like, fuck. And now and then what happens? I take it on and I take it back, and nobody's learned anything because you never have time to go back and teach them. Okay. But if it's due on Thursday, and I used to do this when I'd work with people in their calendars, because we'd go through calendars. We'll take Doug. It's due on Friday, which means he'll want it on Thursday. It's due to the client on Friday, which means he's got to review it on at least Thursday. Okay. So you should probably have a check-in on Tuesday with him to make sure you're on the right track, because really it's due Thursday, and just check in with people and go, just send me what you have. And a couple things on that. One, you can check in to see if you need to recalibrate, but two, you get to see if they're on target, if they're on time, which is really great, because if they're behind and it's Wednesday and you haven't received anything from them, hey, where's my stuff? Because if it comes to you on Thursday and it's got to go to a partner Thursday afternoon, that means you only have from Thursday to Thursday at noon to correct anything that they screwed up, or didn't screw up, but didn't make it right. So again, it starts to have this communication pathway where you can check in, but you're not micromanaging, you're just checking in. And then the red flags, and that's all you have to check for, instead of going over things and doing it yourself. Also, one thing I learned about that is that it allows you to not have so much anxiety. Because, okay, it's in my inbox. All right, I know they're working on it. Okay, yeah, it looks good. All right, boom, I'm on to my stuff.
From a farm kid to college, nanny to pro boxer to boardrooms, Christine Spratley has lived a life that defies convention. Whether she's talking about fuck fear, doing this scared, is still doing it, or beating the boys club, their game, our rules, your style. She delivers sharp wit, real talk, and a fearless approach to leadership, success, and personal growth. After hearing Christine, your audience will have a plan and unapologetically run until apprehended toward their fulfillment. Book her now at christinespratley.com.
So now we're going to talk about managing up without politics. And this is where I used to sit at my computer and write an email and just hover over send, because I was so nervous and afraid to send out to a PPMD. And I was more afraid to send it out to a PPMD than my clients, because I had really good relationships with my clients for the most part. I did get fired by one, which was not a bad thing. Sometimes trash takes itself out. And, but I use the same type of method. Okay. So your influence, wherever you're at, I want to really state this, ladies, you have influence. If you have ever defused a toddler, thrown a tantrum on aisle 7, if you've ever got someone to, a kid to wear they want to, when I was a nanny, Jeffrey didn't ever want to play. He didn't ever want to wear clothes. Okay. Ever. He was like 3, 4, never wanted to wear clothes. And so we'd have naked time and then we'd have clothes time. And naked time started out to be like 30 minutes, and then we got it down to like 10 minutes, But it was like that's influence. If you've ever sold anything, if you got a ring on your finger, you've influenced somebody. Okay? So in the workplace, we have influence. We don't need a title to influence. We do not. We don't need a title to be a leader. We don't need a title to be an influence. Okay, so what I had to learn was stop managing egos and start managing outcomes. Because for me, and this is, again, the principle of influence doesn't require a title, comes from you don't have to, if you want to do it right, you don't have to do it yourself. The stop managing egos comes from the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving Effect. And for me, what happened here was I started managing the outcomes, and I started going, what do they need? What do they need, and what do they want? And then I would over communicate smartly. And what happened is that their trust was built on my anticipation, not of their ego, because that's all over the place, but of what they actually needed. Because they would leave me alone if I could get it. Oh, you need this. All right, boom. Then they'd leave me alone. But if I came in and I was like, and I let their ego kind of come in, and then they just, would have a conversation. And I remember dealing with this partner one time, and everybody was, he was one of these partners that would get on the phone or get on a call, and you'd be correcting stuff. He really micromanaged, and he'd make you correct it on the screen in front of everybody. And I'm a bad speller. And he would, why are you typing that? It's just go up 3, we'd be in an Excel or something. Just go up, or a PowerPoint or something. Just go, click here, I'll do it. He's one of those. And it was just drive and he was not very nice. I'll just put it that way. And everybody, and so our text, the internal Skype conversations between everybody, it's like, we were just tearing him down. It was just, and it would be horror for anybody because you were just on the spotlight. But I was like, all right. So I started trying to do this. Instead of managing the ego, what I started doing was managing the outcome. And I would be into and go, okay, what do you need? And I would have conversations with him before. Okay, what do you need? What do you want? I would sit there and ask him, because that's a very direct question. If you're managing up to someone, what do you need and what do you want? And then I would repeat back. Again, I would go back and I would say, what do I have the authority to do? Define it for me. What do I have the authority to do? Do I have the authority to recommend? Can I call somebody? How do you want this? Okay, when do you want me to check in? Okay, you've told me what you needed. This is what I heard. If you've got someone who is saying, hey, blah, 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 and they don't give you anything, right? Just like Sarah would, just go do it. What I would come back and do, and I learned this the hard way in my time at Big Four, is I would come back and say, so this is what I've heard you want. And I would do this. I would kick it to them. I would say, this is what I heard you want. I can reach out to these people to get it and do it. And this is what it looks like. I would be as defined as possible, and I would communicate to them, and I would get them to sign off. And if they wouldn't, this is the other thing, if they wouldn't call me or tell me, we couldn't have FaceTime, I'd email it. because then it's documented. And I'd say, if I don't hear from you, because this is another thing, managing up, if I don't hear from you by noon today about this, we've talked about this, I want to make sure I'm on the right track, this is what I'm going to do. Okay? And you put that up there and you go, if I don't hear from you, this is what I'm going to do. It's right there. And again, the guy that I'm talking about, it took him a while, because I would throw this back in his face. I'd be like, hey, this is what we said we were going to do. We said we were going to do this. And I would use things like we and things like that. But I would over communicate what I was going to do. Not in an obnoxious way, not like every 5 minutes. Nobody has time for that shit. But on a routine basis, and it got into a routine of, on Mondays I'd go through and I go, Tuesday I'd go through, this is what I'm going to do. And I'd put deadlines on, okay? The other thing that I started doing was anticipating needs. Is I would put check-ins with them on their calendars. And I wouldn't block the time, but I'd say, you're getting this check-in, it's due on Thursday. We're going to do a check-in review, 15 minutes on Wednesday. You're going to have it in your inbox. And then on Wednesday night, I'd be like, got any comments? That's the one thing I also learned. Do not wait for them to give you freaking comments. If you haven't heard that, if you've given them something to review and they haven't given you anything back, and the deadline is noon on Friday with the client and it's Thursday afternoon and they haven't said anything, okay, that means if you let that go, there's a fire drill happening Friday morning at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. Right? So go get them. Anticipate their needs. They need you. They're going to have comments. That's your job, to have comments, to fine tune it, right? So anticipate it. And so then framing it as a we thing. This is what you want me to do. And I also learned this, and I don't think it's manipulative, but it sure as hell says, I can't give you what you want unless you give me what I need to give you what you want. Literally, I cannot complete this task unless you give me what I need in order to do it. I need your comments. I need your time. I need this. I need this authority to go do this. The other thing that's real important is, hey, there's an issue here. This is what I'm going to do about it. This is what I think we should do about it. Offer the solution. I always learned that, and I think I learned that growing up. You got to bring a solution. And we used to play this game when I was at Deloitte, and I really like it. And I think, I don't know. So on my team, because again, not everybody felt comfortable about, pointing out, hey, things are issues or whatever. But we had this game where it was like, we were having a conversation and you got points, if you could go and point out something that was incorrect or wrong or could be done better. But for everything that you pointed out, you had to bring a solution. Okay? And then at the end of the time, anybody who won, and I add up the points, anybody who won would get what they wanted. Like, okay, you get, like somebody would get a mug or someone wanted this. I mean, and everybody was allowed to choose their own gift in the beginning. So it wasn't like, oh, I'm giving a stupid gift that didn't mean anything to them. They could choose kind of their own gift, And Jason, was not going to get Bruins tickets, although he always wanted them. But again, offer the solution. So you're not their emotional support system, okay, when you do this, whether it be up or down. So whether it be the partner who's crazy, batshit crazy, running on ego, you're not his emotional support system. So don't manage his ego, manage the outcomes. Because his ego really is around the outcomes, or her ego. And proactive leadership, and I'm going to call it leadership because that is what you're doing. When you're managing up, you're actually leading. You're communicating. You're saying, this is the solution. This is how we're going to get it done. I'm going to get this done for you. I can do this. Okay? And it's the same thing when you're managing down. You're proactively leading, and that is influence. And that gives you faster influence than any passive agreement that you can ever have. Oh, I'll do it. Oh, I'll just sit here and let him, type. And that guy, that partner called me. I was taking off. It was right before Christmas. And he used to do this a lot. And this is typically how I would handle it. He'd call and he'd just be twisting off. I always call it twisting off. And he'd talk for like 10, 15 minutes, wouldn't say shit. And he called me and he called me, and I'd gotten to a point where I knew I wasn't going to manage his stuff. And so I was on vacation, and he called me, and he called me on Skype, and I didn't answer. He called me, and then he called my cell, and then he called me back. So I pick up, and I'm like, and he was on Pacific time, and I was on Eastern. And of course it was like 6, and I'm still working, even though I'm on vacation. And he's going on. We had this client. He was a foreign client, and he's just, and I go, okay, what do we need to do? What do you need me to do? What do you need me to do? And it was really interesting because at the end of 7, 8 minutes of him just, he was like, I guess we don't need to do anything. I'm like, yeah. I wanted to go, yeah, dumbass. But again, that's the thing. If we focus on the outcome and we focus on what they need, and we don't get that, and they're twisting off, what do you need? Okay, yes, and what do you need? And then this is how I'm going to do it. You've got agreement. This is the authority I have to do it. This is what it's going to look like. These are the time that I'm going to do it. Okay? And I want to comment on one thing. When you do this, you're managing your burnout. You're managing your process. And I didn't realize that. I thought I just needed to make a to-do list and but be strategic. How are you going to do it? I remember working with a younger staff member, and I opened up her calendar because I used to do this, and there's nothing on it. And I'm like, you're like, I don't know, 70% utilized. You're working, I don't know, 55, 60 hours a week. I know you're doing something. Why is your calendar not blocked? And we used to go through it, and I'm like, because I had learned that I needed to be strategic about the time that it takes to do these things. And I needed to communicate with people about it. And again, I would use these 6 steps and the mentality of not everything is important. I like the phrase, if everything's important, then nothing's important. If everything is important, then nothing's important. And if I'm putting out a fire drill here and fire drill there and fire drill there, then it's a fire. It's not a fire drill. It's a fire. If it's doing that for more than a day, it's a fire. And so I had to sit back and go, what are the priorities? What do you want? What is my responsibility? And then do they have enough? Am I giving them enough? Am I giving them a chance to do it? And the best way for me to understand if I'm giving them a chance is to listen and have them comment back to me, okay, what did I tell you to do? Or talk to a partner and say, all right, this is what I heard you say you wanted. We agreement? We're good? And what this did for me was and I didn't realize this at first, but it gave me a lot of peace of mind. It gave me a lot of peace of mind and a lot of clarity. And it also kept me from doing those soul-sucking, mindless things that don't promote. I didn't have to add, and it also, I was going to say, I didn't have to add the clarifications that we always want to add. What it allowed me to do was it allowed me to be less of insecure here and more of focused on the point, which then allowed me to come across with clarity, with command, with compassion. And I just encourage you, we're going to do another segment later, but I just really encourage you to think about how you do this. And literally there's this little thing, and it's a checklist. Be prepared beforehand. Just take a look. Are you preparing beforehand? Clearly define the task to be completed. Be specific. Over detail it. Okay? Because then they're going to go out and they're going to do it. Clearly outline the time frame. Tell them the authority that they have. I expect you to be able to go do this, this, this. Hey, if you need to get something from a partner, ask your partner if you can copy them on the email. So the other partner knows that you've got the partner's authority to go do that and get that. That not to just disregard you because you're a manager or a senior manager. And again, I'm talking Big Four speak, but or accounting speak. But again, do you have the authority to do that? And then I say, I'm going to check in. These are when you're going to check in. Do you understand when you're going to check in? Okay, you've got that commitment. You've signed off on this. And that's the other thing. Get people to sign off on it, whether it be your boss or whatever. We are in agreement that this is what you're going to do. You are in agreement that this is what I'm going to do. And then you put that to the side and you let them go do it. Or your partner's over here and he lets you go do that because you start anticipating their needs. And then you have the freedom to do the work that you want to do, or do the work that you don't want to do sometimes with a lot less headache. So again, we're going to go through more of these, but I think it's really important and I say this as a woman because it gave me, I didn't have to manage other people's shit. And there's a lot of shit that I deal with. I mean, there's enough shit to work through than trying to deal with egos and the politics, because that's a whole nother level. But again, if you focus on what they need and their outcomes and let the ego go aside, and that's for younger staff too, or younger teams too, then my ego doesn't get in there and want to take care of everybody to make me feel comfortable and do. And then I go home and then I resent the hell out of you because, as Joe said, you didn't read my mind. I help create the world that I live in, whether it be at home or in business. And when I'm trying to create that world and make it better and I'm doing these things and it's still crazy, then yeah, maybe I need to leave and find me a different world to work in. But if I'm sitting there creating the cycle, you've heard me talk about, it's my turn. If I'm creating it, then why the hell am I bitching about it? People are bouncing around in their own ignorance, just like I am at days at work, And so the more clarity and the more I can give them, the more I'm going to get back. And I will also tell you this as a woman, because I know that I speak to a lot of women here. When I started doing things like this, I started to have greater influence, and my male counterparts or my male PPMDs started interacting with me very differently. And one of the things that was great is they left me the fuck alone. And I don't know, it was this trust that we built, or I think it was they trusted that I anticipated their needs a lot. And they let me do my stuff. And their comments back to me were elevated because my comments to them and my deliveries to them were elevated, or my teams. And that's really great. That was one of those things that I really liked about doing this, because I was like, I don't have to deal with you don't talk to me 5 freaking times in 5 minutes, And then you're always going to have the other PPMDs that can't seem to, not share every thought, every second. I call it micromanagement occasionally from afar. They come in, they zoom in, and then they go away for five days, and then they come in, You're always going to have those. This isn't perfect, but figure it out. Try it. I encourage you to try it. And remember, not everybody and everything deserves access to your time, your attention, or your anxiety. Your time is precious, your attention is precious, and your anxiety should be low. So figure out, give less fucks at work. Just make the ones you give clear. Till then, ladies, dubs.
Thanks for tuning in to Fear with Christine Spratley. Living like a head in charge. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, tell her what topics you want to hear, and share this episode with someone who could use a pantry full of boldness in their life. Remember, life isn't about aging with grace. It's about aging with mischief, audacity, and having a damn good story to tell. So show up, take action, and keep saying fear.